All right, so this section you're really not doing much to your After Effects. It's not really a much, this section is not really that much about which buttons to click, but so far as being able to understand some of the theoretical approaches to making a strong composition. And it's something that is very important. You know, you have to be able to combine history, theory, and practice together to really be a strong creative person, whether you are a media artist, a creative, a visual artist, etc. You designer, you there are going to be key concepts that you need to understand, not just in the tools that you use, but in also the theoretical approach. And sometimes we are using particular theories and concepts without even realizing it. And so when I say the foreground, midground, and background, some of you may not even recall hearing these terms in your classes, but you have. So, you know, our foreground is is in the front, our midground is midway, and then our background. And that's really important to understand. It's also important to understand like terms such as depth of field. So depth of field, which is really not the case in this picture because you do have a foreground, a midground, and a background. But usually with a depth of field is when your foreground is in focus and your background is out. And depth of field is a really important term to really practice, not to just read about, but to do. Always remember that the making, whether you call yourself an artist, a designer, a filmmaker, media artist, creative, etc., that you're a maker, right? And so the theory is important, but the theory and has to be put in practice, okay? And so in this case, we're also going to talk about the rule of thirds, which is dividing your composition, the greater piece, up into thirds. And the idea is really that your subject falls on the lines of the actual the grids that I just created. And actually, you could say, well, blue is not the case. And you're right. I would need to rearrange this to really hit the lines the way I would want to hit them, particularly for the back figures. But I want to show you where to get your guidelines from, your ruler and the guidelines. So that would be under your view in After Effects, and you would go ahead and select your ruler and bring them out like, and once you have your ruler out, you're just bringing out your guidelines like this. So you're rolling across where the ruler is and just bringing them out. And then you can also bring them back. Like you can move them anywhere you want to, but you can also just bring it all the way back and that will get rid of it. You could get rid of all of them at the same time as well if you just select clear guidelines. But the guidelines that I put here are really important because we do want to try to get to line up our stuff. So I'm going to unlock the running. Um, no, this is the one I want to unlock. The back runners. And I'm just going to bring them over here for a moment and see how I feel about that. That may mean then that I bring over the front runner. So notice how I lock my layers, which I can't impress you enough upon you enough to do is very important so that you don't accidentally click another layer by mistake. And so with that, I'm starting to get something that does have that line. Um, when you are working again with compositions, you know, again, those terms and the terms photographic composition terms such as foreground, middle ground, background, depth of field is important. But there's several others, and what I'll do is I'll post a few for you. So in particular, some of the photographic composition terms that I particularly like. This particular article is from B&H. I love B&H Photo, and I like the way they're describing some of the ways to create a strong composition, particularly in photographs or photographic items. And I also want to make sure that you really understand the principles and elements of art and design. And I'll post some of that also on your Marymount site for you. It's something that we want to regularly go over with you in your making classes so that you develop a consciousness about them. You really are using them without realizing sometimes, and sometimes you do realize it. But we want to get better and better at it. And as we look at other people's work, whether it's motion graphics, stills, etc., we want to be able to look at it and really decipher what makes it strong, right? And by deciphering that allows us then to understand what makes something a strong piece of work and then to try to implement it into our work. And to do that, you really need to be developing the visual language within our discipline. Okay?